For weeks, Maya, the elephant, refused to eat and cried daily at the wildlife sanctuary. Her caretakers were at a loss, unable to pinpoint the reason for her abrupt change in behavior. Then, one day, a familiar figure returned to the sanctuary, and his arrival would change everything. "What else can we try to help her?" was the question that plagued the sanctuary team every day for the past month. Maya, once the liveliest resident of the sanctuary, now stood indifferent, barely acknowledging her surroundings. To them, Maya wasn't just an elephant, she was their pride, their joy, and their companion. Maya had been brought to the sanctuary as a calf, and many of the staff had watched her grow into the magnificent creature she was today. Maya was usually playful and full of life, often known for her mischievous pranks. She had a knack for stealing the caretakers' hats or tugging at their buckets to delay them from leaving her to tend to other animals. Elephants, with their complex and emotional nature, often form deep bonds with those they trust, and Maya had always been an affectionate soul. But now, everything had changed. Most days, she refused to eat or drink, only nibbling at her meals after hours of coaxing. It was an alarming shift for an elephant who once devoured her meals with enthusiasm. The look in her eyes now spoke of a profound sadness and an overwhelming sense of loss. Some caretakers had even caught her crying quietly, a sight that tore at their hearts. They had to act quickly. Maya's health was declining, and her refusal to eat or engage with her surroundings placed her at risk of slipping into a depression so deep that recovery might become impossible. The consequences were dire. Maya could retreat into herself completely, potentially starving herself to death. Desperate for a solution, the sanctuary's director, James, made a call to an old friend, Ethan, a seasoned wildlife behaviorist with decades of experience, particularly with elephants. Ethan had a reputation for forming bonds with even the most troubled animals, and James hoped he could help Maya before it was too late. Ethan arrived 2 days later, ready to confront the challenge. By the time he stepped into the sanctuary, the situation hadn't improved in the slightest. Maya remained motionless in her enclosure, uninterested in food or company. Ethan approached the enclosure cautiously, his voice calm and steady as he said, "Maya, it's me." "Ethan." His words were gentle, filled with a quiet authority. "Why are you making it so hard on everyone, huh?" he continued softly. At the sound of his voice, Maya's ears twitched, and then, for the first time in weeks, she turned her head toward the source. Her frail body swayed as she stood up slowly and began walking toward him. Ethan stopped in his tracks, watching her carefully. He knew this was the moment she had been waiting for. Her behavior made it clear that she recognized him. As Maya approached him, Ethan couldn't help but recall the first time they met. Maya had been just a year old when she was rescued and brought to the sanctuary. She was an orphan, her mother lost to poachers, and the trauma of that loss left her shy and fearful of humans. She avoided touch and often hid in the far corners of her enclosure, unwilling to trust anyone who came near. The sanctuary staff had struggled to connect with her, and when Ethan joined the team years ago as a young wildlife specialist, he had been warned about Maya's reluctance to bond. But Ethan was determined to help her heal, and over time, his patience and dedication had earned her trust. Now, years later, that bond had proven stronger than anyone could have imagined. As she reached him, Maya stretched her trunk toward Ethan, a gesture of familiarity and comfort. Her frailty was evident, but the spark in her eyes hinted at a glimmer of hope. Ethan smiled softly as he gently placed his hand on her trunk. "I'm here, Maya," he whispered. For the first time in weeks, Maya seemed to find solace. The wildlife park decided to bring in new help, and that's how 24-year-old Ryan entered the picture. Ryan had joined as a volunteer, but he had no intention of staying in that position for long. Caring for animals was something he had always envisioned himself doing. Although he was eager to work with various species, Ryan had a particular passion for wildlife conservation. Over the years, he had devoured books and documentaries about the struggle to preserve the existence of animals in an ever-changing world. He wanted to advocate for creatures who had no voice and leave his mark in the field of conservation. When Ryan secured a spot as a volunteer at the park, it felt like a dream come true. This was his first real job, and he was determined to prove himself as an asset, hoping to transition from a volunteer to a permanent role. Soon after joining, Ryan was assigned to assist a senior caretaker. He was told about Maya, the young elephant, and how the park had struggled to help her emerge from the shell she had retreated into since her arrival. Maya's mother had been killed by poachers, leaving her orphaned at a tender age and burdened with psychological trauma. The park's goal was clear: to help Maya feel safe in her new environment and build trust with her caretakers. Developing a meaningful bond with her was crucial to ensuring she didn't feel isolated. However, it wasn't until Ryan stood face to face with Maya that he understood the enormity of the challenge. Maya only responded to food offered by the senior caretaker and retreated whenever anyone tried to touch her. Efforts to engage her in play proved futile. She would lie on the ground, motionless, as if pretending the world didn't exist. When Ryan attempted to approach her, her reaction was even more severe. To Maya, he was a complete stranger, someone unfamiliar and untrustworthy. Every day that Ryan arrived, he faced the same resistance from her, a stark reminder of the depth of her emotional scars. The loss of her mother had left wounds that time alone couldn't heal. Determined to make a difference, Ryan dedicated his free time to learning everything he could about elephant behavior. He scoured books, researched online, and sought advice from wildlife experts he had met before joining the park. While he knew he couldn't force Maya to trust him, he realized he had to earn it, day by day, through consistency and care. A month into his time at the park, Ryan and the caretaker arrived at Maya's enclosure, carrying her meal. As usual, she ate but immediately lay down afterward, awaiting their departure. But on this day, Ryan decided to linger. This was his final task of the day, and he wanted to spend a little extra time with Maya before heading home. With permission, he stayed behind, settling onto a nearby log. Ryan knew that elephants, like humans, are empathetic creatures capable of sensing and interpreting emotions. He decided to rely on Maya's natural abilities to break through the walls she had built. Sitting on the log, Ryan began to talk to her. He told her about his day, his observations around the park, and even trivial things that crossed his mind. There was no real strategy, he simply spoke with a calm and steady voice, letting Maya hear him. To Ryan's surprise, Maya's ears twitched slightly at the sound of his laughter. Though she gave no other visible sign of interest, he noticed the subtle reaction and clung to it as a glimmer of hope. After about 30 minutes, he said his goodbyes and left for the evening. This marked the start of a new ritual. Each day, after finishing his work, Ryan returned to Maya's enclosure. He spent time talking to her, bathing her, and quietly sitting nearby. Slowly, their interactions began to evolve. Though Maya remained reserved, Ryan's patience and kindness started chipping away at her defenses, one day at a time. When Maya heard Ryan's laughter for the first time, her ears twitched slightly, but she gave no other visible signs that his presence made any difference. After spending about 30 minutes talking to her, Ryan said his goodbyes and headed home for the day. It might not have seemed like much, but this marked the beginning of what would become a series of daily interactions. Each evening, once his workday ended, Ryan made it a point to return to Maya's enclosure. He would sit with her, talk to her, and spend time quietly observing her. Bathing her soon became his favorite task, transforming from a routine chore into a bonding experience where both could learn about each other and build trust. Days turned into weeks, and Ryan began to notice subtle yet meaningful changes. Maya, who had once been indifferent to everyone, started to anticipate his visits at the end of each day. Her ears perked up when she heard his voice, and she would watch him attentively, her curiosity and engagement growing stronger with each passing interaction. Bath time, once a challenge for the staff, quickly became her favorite part of the day. It was the one moment she was most cooperative and at ease, a significant departure from her earlier resistance. One evening, after a particularly exhausting day, Ryan returned to Maya's enclosure. Every part of him wanted to go straight home, but their ritual had become so ingrained that skipping it felt wrong. He told himself he'd only stay for a few minutes, planning to apologize and leave quickly. However, when he arrived, he was greeted by a sight that erased his fatigue. For the first time, Maya was standing on her feet, waiting for him at the gate. As Ryan entered the enclosure, Maya cautiously approached him. She listened as he talked about his day, her eyes fixed on him with a softness that spoke volumes. Ryan couldn't help but marvel at how far they'd come. The bond they had formed felt stronger than ever. When it was time for him to leave, Ryan turned to go, but Maya surprised him by wrapping her trunk around his arm and tugging gently, as if asking him to stay. Ryan stopped in his tracks, looking down at her with a mixture of astonishment and joy. A broad smile spread across his face as he knelt to gently pet her. For nearly 3 months, he had worked tirelessly to earn her trust, and this was the first time Maya had reached out to touch someone. It was a deeply humbling moment for Ryan, one that made all his efforts worthwhile. The exhaustion he had carried home with him faded into the background as he realized he had finally broken through Maya's barriers. The next day, Ryan informed the park's manager and his supervisor about the breakthrough, but they were skeptical until they saw it with their own eyes. When Ryan entered her enclosure and called her name, Maya darted toward him with enthusiasm. As he knelt to greet her, she nuzzled her head against him, expressing a level of affection and happiness that none of the staff had seen before. Seeing the extraordinary bond between Ryan and Maya, the park decided to make him her primary caretaker. They also assigned additional staff to assist him, ensuring Maya received the best care possible. With Ryan's help, Maya blossomed. She became cheerful and playful, often engaging with the other staff. Her favorite trick was using her trunk to hold them in place, much to everyone's amusement. Though she became friendlier with the team, it was clear that her bond with Ryan was unique. For Maya, Ryan wasn't just another caretaker, he was her first true friend, the one who had shown her patience and love when she needed it most. Their connection became the foundation of Maya's recovery and her ability to embrace the world around her. Maya never fully warmed up to anyone other than Ryan. For her, he was not just a caretaker but her first true friend, the one who saved her from retreating into solitude when all seemed lost. The quiet moments they shared at the end of each day became a source of immense joy for Maya, strengthening their unique bond. Ryan's extraordinary ability to connect with Maya didn't go unnoticed. Soon, wildlife parks and sanctuaries with challenging animals began reaching out to him for advice. While the growing attention was overwhelming, Ryan felt grateful for the chance to expand his efforts toward a dream he had always cherished, making a lasting impact in wildlife conservation. In his free time, Ryan offered consultations to other wildlife centers, sharing techniques for fostering trust and improving animal behavior. Despite his increasing commitments, he remained devoted to his role at the sanctuary. No matter how busy his day became, he always made time for Maya and continued to nurture her relationships with the other rescued elephants. As Maya grew, Ryan grew alongside her. For 30 years, they remained inseparable, their bond evolving with time. By the time Maya was 31 years old, most people had forgotten her rocky beginnings. Her playful and jovial nature made her the heart of the sanctuary, beloved by staff and visitors alike. She brought happiness to everyone she encountered, becoming a symbol of hope and resilience. At 53 years old, Ryan had achieved more than he ever dreamed. He was involved in several key wildlife preservation projects and had helped animals worldwide. However, he felt it was time to retire and travel abroad, dedicating his efforts to global conservation initiatives. Although leaving was bittersweet, Ryan believed Maya would be in good hands with his trusted assistant, who had learned under his guidance. When Ryan made the decision to leave, he gradually reduced the time he spent with Maya, hoping to help her detach from him. The sanctuary staff was saddened by his departure, but after much discussion, his resignation was accepted. On his final day, Ryan visited Maya's enclosure to say goodbye. True to her nature, Maya was far more interested in playing with him than listening to his words. Unable to capture her focus, Ryan joined in her playful antics, cherishing every moment. For one last time, he savored the joy she brought into his life, knowing their bond would always remain special. When it was time to leave, Ryan quietly stepped out of Maya's enclosure, hoping she wouldn't notice his departure. But as he reached the gate, Maya wrapped her trunk around his arm, stopping him in his tracks. In that moment, Ryan realized how deeply his absence would affect her. Elephants are known for their incredible memories, and losing a familiar caretaker often leaves them distressed. Ryan's heart sank as he understood the emotional toll his departure was taking on Maya. Despite their long history together, he hadn't fully anticipated how difficult this goodbye would be for her. To Maya, Ryan's absence wasn't just temporary, it felt sudden and final, something she couldn't yet process. Her grip on him tightened as if she was pleading for him to stay. The scene drew quiet laughter and tears from the nearby staff, touched by the profound connection between the two. Unable to leave her in such a state, Ryan decided to stay a little longer, determined to ensure Maya felt secure before he said goodbye again. When it was time for her feeding, Ryan took charge as he always had. Maya, delighted by his presence, eagerly ate her meal, her spirits visibly lifting. Later, during bath time, her playful side returned. She sprayed water out of her trunk, drenching Ryan and causing him to dodge her antics with laughter. For a day that had started so emotionally heavy, it ended with joy and lightness, a testament to the bond they shared. Ryan remained by her side until it was time for him to leave the park that evening. Recognizing Ryan's dedication and the unique bond he had with Maya, the park offered him a managerial position. The role came with flexible hours, allowing Ryan to stay close to Maya and the other animals he had grown to love. Though the responsibilities shifted, Ryan accepted the position gladly, knowing it would keep him connected to the sanctuary. Even though he was no longer directly responsible for Maya's care, he made time to visit her whenever possible, ensuring their bond remained intact. In time, Maya thrived again, regaining her strength and spirit under Ryan's continued guidance. She even became a mother, welcoming a calf of her own. The first thing Maya did was introduce her baby to Ryan, proudly showing off her new family member. It was clear that she wanted her calf to know the person who had meant so much to her. For Maya, Ryan wasn't just her caretaker, he was her lifelong friend, someone whose kindness and devotion had brought her back from the brink of despair. Ryan realized then that their connection would endure, no matter what came next. Through love and trust, they had formed a bond that would forever be a part of both their lives. The story of Ryan and Maya teaches us profound lessons about unconditional love, resilience, and the transformative power of trust. It reminds us that bonds, whether between humans or animals, are built not just through words but through consistent actions, patience, and empathy. Ryan's dedication to Maya, even during moments of frustration and uncertainty, illustrates the importance of showing up for those who rely on us, no matter how challenging the circumstances. His commitment reminds us that meaningful relationships require effort and understanding but reward us with deep connections that can change lives. Moreover, Maya's journey from despair to joy highlights the resilience that lies within all living beings. Her transformation shows us that with the right support, even the most wounded hearts can heal. This speaks to the value of kindness and compassion in everyday life. When we extend love and patience to others, whether people, animals, or ourselves, we create the conditions for growth, healing, and happiness. Finally, the story underscores the importance of finding purpose through love and service. Ryan's bond with Maya gave him a deeper sense of meaning, proving that when we nurture others, we also nurture our own hearts. Kindness, in its simplest form, can create miracles.